We are living in a time where hate has become louder, where words are fueling division, and where fear and violence are entering our streets, schools, homes, and places of worship. Every day, people are being targeted because of their faith, race, culture, or simply because they are different. But we refuse to allow hate to define our future. This series is about more than hate crimes. It is about humanity, healing, understanding, and courageous conversations that bring people together instead of tearing them apart. Featuring faith leaders, community advocates, public officials, survivors, and voices from different backgrounds, united in confronting hate and building hope. Because love must speak louder than hate, and our shared humanity must always rise above division. Join us for this powerful new series on the SB Life Institute podcast, Conversations on Hate, Healing, Unity, and Hope. Coming soon. Hi everyone, peace and love be with each and every one of you. Welcome to SB Life Institute podcast. And today I am quite delighted and honored to have a guest, and I'm hoping to have an amazing conversation with him. Knowing about him, I had the opportunity to meet him a few years ago in Guyana. And in addition to this, he's currently my guest here in New York. I'm honored to have Dr. Shaykh Toyib Hamza in our studio, the studio of SB Life Institute podcast, where we hope to inspire, guide, and teach. Just to share very briefly about our beloved doctor, Dr. Shaykh Toyib Hamza was born in Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast actually is in Africa, for those of you who do not know. And currently, now he is serving as an imam in Guyana, South America, and has done his medical practitioner degree in Guyana and has completed his 1-year contract in the Georgetown Public Hospital. I know that he has a bright future ahead of him, and listening to him and his journey, there are so many life lessons that I believe that I want to share with you today during our conversation that will inspire, guide, and to inform as well our listeners about what we can achieve despite where we came from. And then when we have the heart, a heart that is compassionate, a heart that is somehow lean towards serving and being an empathetic leader and someone that serves, then you are able to accomplish a lot. So I want to welcome our good brother, Dr. Shaykh Toyib. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you here in our studio, and also to be a brother and a friend to myself. I'll start by asking you, what motivated you somehow to be in that field, being a doctor and also being a sheikh, someone that is in the field of spirituality, or wanting to hold someone's hand to guide them along the path of spirituality. Because I just want to say this, why I'm asking you this question. Yesterday we went to an event, and there is this notion, basically, that when you are an imam or leader, that there is no zeal or zest or interest in becoming an academia, so to speak. That they feel an imam or a spiritual leader is someone that cannot articulate and does not have a vision. There are people who actually think so. And yesterday we experienced that someone was saying to me, "Oh, you spoke very well, and I was impressed. You being an imam, ? I don't know what that means." Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself, that's one, and what prompted you to be in the medical field?
Thank you so much, Imam. I'd like to appreciate you for having me here. You've been very accommodating. May God Almighty reward you abundantly.
Yes, thank you so much.
I pray that may God keep our friendship and our togetherness. Also, good day to our viewers.
Yes.
To be brief in answering your question, Sheikh, subhanallah, growing up in a very humble family with 6 other siblings, and you see how your parents, struggling to provide for you and so on, and trying to provide the best of education that they wouldn't have had the chance.
Yeah.
So what inspired me in short was one day, I think I mentioned that when we went to this middle school,
middle school,
and had a very brief discussion with the peoples there. So my grandfather was sick, and my dad and I went to visit him. So my dad realized, he wasn't feeling fine, so we had to take him to the hospital. So on getting there, I wasn't pleased, even as a young boy, with how he was treated. I mean, my grandfather, he wasn't attended to as we would have wished, who were kind of being ignored. And I saw other persons, and that would be like my first time.
How old were you then?
Alhamdulillah, I'm in my 30s.
No, then. How old were you then?
I should be around 15.
Oh, you were around 15.
Around 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I didn't like the situation. So I told myself, you know what? I would want to be a doctor. I would want to help people, at least do better in assisting people that have medical conditions. So that was that ignition at that tender age. And then I remember growing up in an Islamic family, I seen my dad, grandfather always been devoted to Islam and so on. That was also imbibed, and I wanted to be somebody like that as well. And even before that, we seen planes, over our head.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to
be in that plane one day.
to be
I
in
think
one
that
plane.
I think that is a dream of every young boy.
Yeah.
I can remember myself as well, growing up as a kid, and the plane is passing over our heads, and we're all the way looking up
Correct.
with hope, like, man, I'll be in there one day. Yeah.
So I also wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah, you wanted to be a pilot.
Also,
Okay.
So, but it got to a junction that I had to make a choice. You
Yeah.
can do everything.
Yeah.
But I would say that there are some opportunities that when it comes and you grasp them, open doors to certain things. So, subhanallah, after high school, I'm going to college, you had to decide what you want to do. So we even asked, what do you want to become? So I had 3 things in mind.
Yeah.
The first was I wanted to be an imam, an Islamic scholar.
Islamic scholar.
Then the second one, I wanted to be a doctor. And the third option was I wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
So I told that to my mom, and she said she was going to pray over it.
Yeah.
And then
the mother's blessing.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
She said she was going to pray over it. And she said from her prayers that everything was good. I have to decide. She said that from her prayers that everything was good, that I have to just make a choice.
Yeah.
So that was that ignition actually.
So that's I'm hearing two things, that you there was a sense of concern about the healing process of your loved one.
Correct.
Which ignited that. And that was a passion that you have. You never wanted to see your family member, someone that you love, experience that. You want to be them. You felt probably helpless, kind of do something in the future, right?
That is it.
And then secondly, from growing up from a religious background, being in it from Islamic faith. And I just want to mention that you said that you grew up in Ivory Coast. You have parents who are Nigerian, actually, right? And so I'll ask about your early school days, because I know that despite you're an imam at this particular point in Guyana, and we will talk about that. You mentioned that you had mentioned to me that you you went to a Christian school, so to speak, and how different that was. This will be aired on a platform where we're discussing hate crime and interfaith harmony. So I think it's important. You being an imam, I'll say, how was your experience growing up with Muslim home? But here's it, that you're taking your early education from a Christian school.
Yeah, thank you. That is a very beautiful question. And remember, Ivory Coast is a French-speaking country.
Yeah.
So first of all, I went to the government school for kindergarten and primary school. So first, second year, then my dad traveled out and my mom took us out of the school and put us into this private English school. Was owned by the Christian missionaries from Nigeria. So, and it was one of the best, private schools owned, that run an English system.
Okay.
And it was also closer to our home, making it less difficult for my parents to take us back from school and so on. And it was Christian. So, alhamdulillah, at home I am a Muslim. At school, we had to do Christian religious studies.
Yeah.
And, they were preaching unity, love, everything that was good. So growing up, I'm like, why do you have, differences in, different religions and so on, while all of them were preaching one thing?
Yeah. There was a unification,
of message. Yeah,
yes.
correct.
And that is something, now that you're an imam, you will know that Islam is a faith that advocates for us to come in common terms with the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians. Like, come to common terms with them, right?
Yeah.
See the commonality that you have. Your experience there, what is it, one of the message that you have learned from your earlier days from this Christian school?
Good. So it actually portrays how one should be accommodating. Remember, that was a Christian school, and they knew I was Muslim because my name, first of all, Toyib
Hamza.
That is,
you can't get more Muslim than that.
Correct. And at the time, I had something here.
Yeah.
That was, when I was younger, it was very, I would say glaring.
Glaring, yeah.
You could say. So, however, they provided an environment, irrespective of your religious background, to give you the best education. So I had, in fact, up to today, I would tell you, majority of my friends are Christians. Because I told you I went to a Christian school. I remember your immediate classmate and so on will be your friends. So
you still have connections with them.
Exactly. And that is why, which is what Islam preaches, to be able to go along with everybody, irrespective of their religious background.
So what I'm hearing, it was not difficult for you to assimilate. As a young, how old were you then? Sorry.
Well, I started the school at around 7, primary school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time I'm talking to you now, that was about 14 going up to
15.
Yeah, 15.
So the thing is, was there any point that there was a conflict on your thought process? In terms of conflict of where should I lean towards? There's a reason I'm asking. Because people, when they're open up or have access to different thought process, sometimes they have conflict in terms of their thought.
That's true.
There's something pulling them this way. There's something. How were you able to navigate that?
Okay.
As a young, energetic man that is seeking to open up, pathway to his future.
Okay. Before answering that question straightforwardly, I would say, I don't know if you know of the time when Boko Haram was a big thing in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The Boko Haram, those extreme in the northern part of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So, I was a Muslim, and some of the teachers would be like, while they were discussing, because we used to do government in class. So when they're discussing all of those things, Boko Haram being terrorists, and they are tagged to be Muslim. And I'm like, from home, I was taught Islam to be peaceful and so on.
Yeah.
And at school, which was Christian, to be peaceful. And so, who are these guys?
Yeah.
claiming to be Muslims and doing the opposite
of what Islam
of
requires.
what Islam requires, of what Islam stands for.
Yeah.
And that is why, that inquisitive nature begin to rise. And then, subhanallah, I had to now have deeper interest in understanding my religion. Because I was like, if Islam is saying this, Christianity is saying this, so why are we different? I mean, why do we
Yeah.
have different religions?
Yeah.
And that is why
That motivated you to
yeah.
to align yourself with learning more about your faith.
Correct. So I had to, because first of all, it was cultural for us growing up in an Islamic family to be enrolled in madrasas,
Yeah.
or maktab,
Yeah.
after school hours
After
and
school
during
hours, yeah.
weekends,
Weekends.
So I then decided to do, a bachelor's in Islamic studies, and, thereafter did a master's.
So we will talk about that briefly,
Okay.
but you have parents that are Nigerian, and you talk about the Boko Haram, right?
Okay.
There is this notion in the West that the Muslims in Nigeria is oppressing the Christians, right? And that there is injustices walking in Manhattan, in Times Square. Myself and you, we saw a huge billboard where there's an organization saying stop the genocide of the Christians and oppressions of Christians. Mentioned genocide of the Christians in Nigeria. What do you have to say about this? Because I know that sometimes politicians in the whole try to take a specific situation and create a storm from a teacup, so to speak, and just to gain sympathy and their own political mileage. How do you see this conflict that you have between Muslims and Christians, basically in Nigeria, and what role do you see like the government has to play, and also religious leaders, most importantly, has to play in bridging that gap?
Correct. So, let us remember that Nigeria, just like many of the African states, are multicultural.
Yeah.
They may all be blacks, but they have their own ethnicity.
Yeah.
And they have been living peacefully for ages.
Yeah.
So how come all of a sudden they begin to have differences to the extent of trying to kill one another?
Yeah.
So just like you have rightly said, a lot of it is politically motivated. It is not that, I don't want to see this person because he was a Christian, or no. Like many cases, especially in the western part of Nigeria, you would find a church, right? And less than 20 meters away from the church, you find a mosque. And less than 20 meters from that same mosque, you find a shrine wherein traditional worshippers worship. So there was this coexistence, peaceful cohabitation among them.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things happening, I would say, that would be blind from the common man. Okay. So if you look at it, for a very good example, also in Nigeria, you see this is more prominent in the northern state.
Yeah.
Okay. And what you find in the northern state, you find a lot of natural resources. So politicians, would, I would say, sponsor what we can call terrorism among the inhabitants, so as to drive away the locals. Then they would be able to exploit the minerals, the resources that are there. And also, nonetheless, for political reasons, political offices. So they create these things, especially when probably the incumbent government is not of their parties, to make the government look bad. So to use that in their manifestos against them during political campaigns. So it is a lot of things going on there.
So it's vested self-interest.
Correct. Yeah.
Vested self-interest is the motivation behind this. And also, I think education is so important, and religious harmony can only come about if we open up our places of worship, places of worship
Mhm.
where we learn more about the other person.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I during my studies of clinical pastor education, I met a few Nigerians that were priests. They're from the Catholic community, and one remark was made in a particular day that they cannot enter into our sacred space, that they have this notion that they cannot enter into sacred space. So the hospital had a sacred space specifically for Muslims. When I say sacred space, a musalla, basically, right?
I understand.
So as a Muslim chaplain, my duty there is to somehow, some of these interns, I'm asked sometimes to highlight aspect of my faith. So there will be spiritual competence and also cultural competency. So I'll say, come in and observe. We will be praying Dhuhr prayer, for example, or be having a gathering at this particular time. Come and observe. Have any questions? We're able to. So you're seeing, and that normalizes things. And also, you have any questions, basically. So he said, can I come in? Like I don't know where they learned this or have this thought process that they cannot set foot into, or walk into a sacred space for a Muslim. And I said, totally unacceptable that you can actually come and you're not violating. So I think education is one. There's education, because if there is a barrier that is erected, it will definitely cause problem. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm hoping that our viewers and others would not look at these things and be one-sided in the thought process, and understand that there is an evil force, there is a driving force that seeks, rather than building bridges, they're building walls to divide people, and that's it. And, and you rightly said that Africa has many cultural differences. You have different tribes, and what comes to mind again,
Ethnicity and so
ethnicity
on.
and language. And our religion tells us that God created us that way, so that we may learn from each other. So we may learn from each other. So it's important that we highlight that. So coming back to yourself, right? So growing up in that environment where your parents are from Nigeria, there's a sense of political tension sometimes, or religious tension, but you from your experience in the school, you wanted to find the truth, so that push you towards, number one, learning more about your faith, right? About what Islam represents. And that's amazing that you did not only grow up in an Islamic family, but also you had this eagerness to learn more and learn the truth. All right. So what did you discover during this time?
What I discovered was that the religion Islam, particularly, just like many of the religions in the world, were there to preach unity, to preach peace. They were not necessarily as how the media portrayed them to be, and it actually reinforced, what I would have been taught growing up, because that was one of the reasons why I had to study it. I wanted to know. I just didn't want to follow what I was told. I just wanted to be able to assess the primary sources, which kind of reinforced my faith in the religion. And mind you, as I told you, being in a Christian school, I would have been exposed to Christian religious studies, wherein we're studying the Bible as well, So then I understood what were the primary differences. And I understood that those differences were not or shouldn't be causes for labeling, or shouldn't be causes for hating one another, because at the end of the day, it comes to your personal experience, your personal faith, what you believe in. And like I mentioned, all religions preach peace, So if you believe that Islam, you have this spiritual connection to your creator, that is where you are finding peace. And another person who is a Christian, or any other religion finds peace, finds spiritual connection, that is for them.
Yeah.
So what is expected is to be able to learn from each other, not to be blindfolded, about one certain religion, but to like you rightly said, education.
Education is very important. Yes.
It's very important, trying to understand other person's perspective,
Your perspective. Yeah.
about certain things. So when you know or when you understand their own perspective, you are going to respect their position.
Yeah.
So it comes down to education at the end of the day.
And yeah, I agree with you. And we will learn that it was Jesus that said, based on narration in their scripture, in the Bible, that blessed are the peacemakers, not blessed are the warmongers.
Yeah.
And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he migrated to Medina, from Mecca to Medina, among the first things that he says, Ifshu salam. And that was a community that I will consider to be a Medina at that time, was a community that was multicultural, because you have the Jewish communities, the Jewish tribes that were there, clans that were there. And also you had other, religious groups that were there. And he said, blessed are the peacemakers.
Yeah.
Right? That was Jesus' words. But he says, Ifshu salam, Prophet Muhammad, Ifshu salam wa at'imu ta'am wa salli bil-layl wa nas niyam wa dhkhul al-jannata ma'a salam. Spread peace and feed indigent. Right? And Moses, he talked about, the harm of spilling blood. One of the commands that you should not kill, you should not spill blood. Murdering is considered to be one of the deadly sins, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And even in Hinduism, speaks in a very firm way of finding inner peace within yourself, right?
Yeah.
So there is a connection. And if we learn that, I think will be amazing. Now, I'll say from the age of 17, right?
Yeah.
You have been traveling. And that reminds me of myself leaving Guyana at the age of 16, away from home. Can you tell me about your journey in terms of traveling and you're moving around? How were you able to navigate? And what, okay, after I'll follow up. I'll follow up with another question.
After high school and so on. So at 17, I had to go to tertiary education, tertiary school. Then because I was already in the English system, the best option would have been probably going to the UK to further medication. But remember, there was financial limitations, right? So being in the West African state, either go to Ghana or Nigeria, So then I went to Nigeria. And in terms of finance, that would have been more easier for my parents because my aunties and uncles were living there, so I could have lived with them and so on. So, 4 years at the university, and I think we should mention that maybe now, and that was in one of the first Islamic faith-based university in Nigeria, Jamiat al-Hikmah. University in Nigeria, which is north central of Nigeria in Kwara State.
So that's from Ivory Coast you went there?
Correct. Yeah. So I spent 4 to 5 years there. And, first time.
You did a degree there?
Yeah, I did a degree. So first time being away from my family, and of course you would miss your family and so on. And well, my situation, I would say, was better than yours because, we had phones, we had WhatsApp and so on. Maybe the audience would know your story. So, but I missed a lot of stuff, like my brothers and sisters' weddings, birthdays, celebration, and so on and so forth. Because for some reasons, it was mostly during exams, these were happening, and you had to stay. And also, for financial reasons, you couldn't have been traveling all the time, So, but it was very, very, a very good experience, It taught patience, it taught reliance, it taught us to be focused, Okay, I want to be this, I want to be that, to try to avoid distractions, to be able to stand, alone and make decisions that would be able to give you a better future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Mm.
Now, I think the important thing now I will ask, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, which is in Africa.
Mhm.
How did you end up in Guyana?
Wow.
And now, just to share with our viewers, you have been in Guyana close to 7 years.
Mm.
You have a Guyanese passport,
Mm.
and you have been working as an imam in Guyana, and also after your school in the medical field,
Yeah.
that you have worked a year
Mm.
somehow in the Georgetown Public Hospital.
Yeah.
Now, how did you reach in Guyana? And I know you have won the hearts of many people in Guyana. You spend some days with me, and you're here, and I know people are calling you on the phone asking when you're coming back. They want to take you to Suriname, and they're guiding you through this process that it seems if you're well loved and appreciated in Guyana.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you about that, and then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. I think, you see, one of those things that really helped me to be able to be in, I would say, cultures that kind of different from mine,
Yeah.
was the fact that in Ivory Coast, you find multinational people from Senegal, from Mali, from Burkina Faso, Lebanese, French, everybody was there. So I had friends from all of these countries, and totally different cultures. And we were friends. We were cohabitating peacefully. I used to love their meals, when we were invited to their home. And like, for example, you would be able to relate to Chep, one of my best childhood friends. Was a Senegalese. And because during the day or after school, we play football and then, and his mom would invite us, to take lunch, and we'd sit together, around this platter, and wash our hands, eat from the same bowl. So, beautiful. Now going to a different place. Now let's talk about Nigeria now. In Nigeria, you find Hausas, you find Igbos, you find Yorubas, which are considered like the three majors. However, there are more than 250 ethnic groups. The Tiv, the Fulanese, and so on. And they also have each cultures different from each other, ethnic language, their dressing, and everything was different. And that was one of the things I really loved. I love
that's
to
our
know.
strength. Unfortunately, people try to divide a country based on those cultural differences, but that's a source of strength.
Correct.
Our cultural difference is a source of our strength.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that I'm happy that you saw that, right?
So my transition to Guyana now. So what happened was in Nigeria at Alaiko University, I did a bachelor's in biochemistry. So minors in Islamic studies. And major in biochemistry. However, my intention was actually to do medicine. But at the time, the school wasn't offering medicine at the time. Other schools that were offering medicine, I would say, were very highly competitive and expensive. So I didn't want to waste 1 and 2 years, to get. So I pursued with the biochemistry, and then after that, I served for 1 year. It was a compulsory national service. So I was attached to a university, the biochemistry department. Then, as a graduate assistant lecturer, for a year. Then I went back to Ivory Coast. So I was working with this pharmaceutical company. And then I always wanted to do medicine. Remember, I told you there was this love and zeal of trying to help people. And, and every day that I'm at work, I would see this thing popping up on the screen on medical schools in the Caribbean. Because, I would be searching schools that were affordable, Then ads would come up. Then I see this school. Okay. I applied. I saw different schools, right? I looked at the one that is more affordable. I applied. Okay. The end of the day was was over from work. The following morning on my desk, open my mail, I received an admission letter to this school. I said, what?
That's very quick.
That was very quick. Then, okay, I look at the country, Guyana. Well, I don't know this country. Maybe I've heard of it or not. I'm not sure. I don't know. Then I had to make findings about this country. Oh, I see. It's the poorest country, you know, in this part of the world. I mean, in South America, the poorest. And in fact, I see that the crime rates was the highest. I see something like suicide was common. Oh, you know, but I still want to do medicine, you know. And then I tell my boss, he say, yeah, that's very good, you know. Okay. Then I tell my dad, who's my sponsor, and he knew that I always wanted to do medicine. He said, okay, you know, I will try our best, you know, taking loan, you know, from friends or whatever, just to send
Taking loan.
yeah, just to send me to medical school.
So that's how you end up in Guyana.
Correct.
When you went to Guyana, what was your what was your impression? What was your experience like?
Truly speaking,
Yeah.
it was
Different. Yeah.
and I don't want to say this in a negative way, but below my expectation.
Yeah.
Because remember, I come from Ivory Coast,
Yeah.
you know, a kind of metropolitan city, you know, advanced in so many ways, right? And I come to Guyana and like 2019,
2019.
things were kind of, should I say, flat. Banking system were slow. To me, everything was kind of slow.
Yeah.
You know. Then, okay, I came here for schooling. You know, so I have to face the school.
The school,
right?
Mhm.
And then, yeah, that was it. So
That was it.
basically, the school.
So now that we're talking about you had certain expectations, right?
Mhm.
School. I know being in a foreign land, trying to navigate, right? Trying to navigate, being in student life, finding places.
Mhm.
You know, what was your motivation basically in moving forward, because now you're greatly connected, right?
Mhm,
Yeah, in the
mhm.
sense that you know the various religious organizations, you have a good network behind you, behind you, so to speak, that is pushing you. You did not reach there overnight, right?
No.
So I'll say, how is it that you were able to navigate to the point where you're at now? Because I know that you said things have changed, and you see Guyana is trying in terms of development and that type of thing, right? There's a sense of growth.
Mhm.
And it's good that we're being open at that particular point, that you you're coming from a country and you have expectation in another country, and it's not what you see,
Yeah.
right? And definitely we all went through, I went through that as well, in terms of Egypt. And when you go to different lands, there are certain things that we're not accustomed to, but the end of the day, that you have to navigate. And I can begin to imagine, as a foreigner away from your family, that having to be there as a foreigner, don't know the country, and you're there, how receptive was the people generally, and how was the experience where that is concerned?
Wow, I must tell you, and I would say this everywhere at any time, Ghanaians are one of the most accommodated people in the world.
They're one of the most accommodating people in the world.
Yeah, welcoming people,
Welcoming.
you know. So remember, I identify as a Muslim because I'm a Muslim. So I know how the masjid is connected to a Muslim. The I think in our outing yesterday, you mentioned one of those 7 persons that will be protected under the shade of Allah on the day there wouldn't be any shades is someone whose heart is attached to the masjid.
Yeah.
Remember? And
Yeah.
the 6 other persons. So I would always go to the masjid, and which was already imbibed in me from home, and even from Nigeria. I believe so much in spirituality, and for that reasons I took some path in what we call tasawwuf,
Yeah.
the chains of tazkiyah, spiritual cleanliness, and so on. So masjid plays a very major role in our life as Muslims. And then after school, I would go to the masjid, meet the brothers, and I think they just saw something in me, and would ask me a few questions, and uh, being humble, humility, and also because I remember even in one of our madrasas, because I went to several madaris, so in one of them I wrote, I can remember at the back of my notebook, I said, "Oh Allah, make the knowledge of Islam easy for me, so that I can propagate it." I remember, like, as I'm saying, it's just like it was yesterday. I wrote it there. So I want to say somehow as if I think Allah made the understanding of the religion easier for me, So the brothers, they would also, because they love Islam, they love their religion, and they see that you are always committed to the masjid. After Fajr, you are there doing your zikr.
So you were showing up, and they recognized something in you, and
correct, correct.
and somehow they pushed you.
That is it.
Our time is coming to an end, and I'm happy that we had the opportunity to speak. But I know you said 7 years now you're in Guyana, approximately 7 years. What is one thing valuable that you have learned from the country that is foreign, like Guyana?
Guyana. I have learned how to be accommodating.
How to be accommodating.
How to be welcoming, and you see that in Guyanese, home and abroad. And you are a very typical example. You mentioned at the beginning of our session, we met once at an Islamic conference, and we exchanged contact. And even though we rarely communicate, but I see some of your work, that you do online, and I try to associate myself with people that have the same goal and objective, and so that was how the connection was.
Yes.
And the first time in your home, it was like we've been brothers for years. And it's been like that, back in Guyana and even abroad, and that is what I want to.
The warm welcome,
Yeah, and I want to be like that as well. I want to make sure that, inshallah, when I build my home, people can come, spend days they want. I want to be able to do that, inshallah.
Yeah. And, you have mentioned about, I think it's Ivory Coast or Nigeria, that you'll find a mosque, a church, and basically you have a place where the tribes will go and worship in close proximity.
Yeah, like shrines.
Shrines and so forth. So I think also in Guyana, you have religious harmony as well, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
that's something that you have in common. I think the world could learn about the religious harmony there, right? There's no religious tension.
Correct.
And there will probably be people who try to, like many other countries do, because of personal interests and political interests, try to divide
and rule.
Divide and rule. Divide and rule. But when it comes to religious harmony and togetherness, I think that our country is stood out where that is concerned. And Guyana is quite, I'll say, proud and happy to have you and to be there serving the Muslim community as an imam, and also helping the patients. During your 1 year there, and whatever life has in store for you, I do hope that you have a bright future and a happy future, and I hope and pray that your work will continue to inspire others.
Thank you so
Thank you so much. Bye. So thank you all so much for joining us on this episode. You are watching SB Life Institute podcast. Kindly do not forget to listen and to share. We are on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It's important for us to continue to have these meaningful discussions with the intent that it will inspire, guide, and also to teach. Our objective and our aim is to build bridges and not to build walls. Peace and love. I'm your host, Safraz Bacchus. Until the other episode, love you all. Bye.